Welcome to the second in the series of videos in helping you to complete the budget project for managerial accounting. In our last video, we prepared the sales budget. In this video, we're going to move on to step 2, which is to prepare the production budget. Now, we understand from our reading that it is necessary to complete the sales budget in order to complete the production budget, because we're going to use information from the sales budget to prepare the production budget. So let's begin now with step 2. In step 2, it says complete Part C production budget on the budget tab by using the information found in the balance sheet. Alright, so what we're going to do is, you'll see it's Part C, so if we move over here to the Excel spreadsheet, we have our Part C Tasty Treats production budget. Now, on the very first line, it tells us that we need to input the next month's budgeted sales in units. You also see, looking back at the instructions, that again we have to consider Assumption 1, which gave us a lot of information about ending sales units in June and forecasted sales units for the next quarter. It also tells us that we want that June 30th finished goods inventory, it contains 16,800 units. That's going to come into play. And then it also tells us what company policy is, what the company requires to have in finished goods inventory at the end of the month. These are all very important pieces of information to know when preparing the production budget. So let's go see what we can do with July here. So it tells us under July to input the next month's budgeted sales in units. So if we're looking at July and it wants us to input the next month's budgeted sales in units, the next month is August. So if we look back up at our sales budget, we can see that budgeted units for August were 22,000. So that's the figure we want to put in, 22,000. Okay. Now it asks for the percentage of inventory to future sales. Well, we read in Assumption 3 that the company policy calls for a given month's ending finished goods inventory to equal 70% of the next month's expected unit sales. Remember, we're trying to calculate this third row, budgeted ending inventory. And so what it's telling us is that company policy says that it has to be 70% of the next month's budgeted sales. So all we're going to do here is simply put in 70%. And we're going to let Excel do the work for us. We're going to put in the formula for it to calculate 70% of 22,000 units. Okay? So we're told that our budgeted ending inventory needs to be 15,400 units. Now, we're going to add our budgeted sales. Now, this is our budgeted sales in units. But now we're going to look at the month of July. So what are our budgeted sales in units for the month of July? If we go back up to our sales budget, we see 18,000 units. And that's what we input. So now, if we add these two together, again, we can let Excel perform that function for us, where we add the 15,400 budgeted ending inventory plus the sales for July in units. We see that the required number of units that need to be produced in the month of July are 33,400. But guess what? There's another piece here. We need to deduct what was left over from the previous month, because we don't want to create those units again. We already have them. So if we go back over to our assumptions, guess what? Assumption 2 tells us that the June 30th finished goods inventory was 16,800. So we need to back those units out of the transaction here, or the calculation. So all we're going to do here is we're going to take the 33,400 and subtract out the 16,800. And that tells us that the number of units that Tasty Treats needs to produce in the month of July is 16,600 units. Thank you.